For those of you in the room and those of you watching along at home, my name is Hannah Bolvi, and I am the Greatest Journey Development Manager at Operation Christmas Child. So I, as it sounds, work on development for the Greatest Journey. I get to work some with our international partners as well as, and our international team, as well as developing new kind of grassroots streams for communicating about the Greatest Journey. And in the case of our app, developing things for the US audience. So I just want to give you a little bit of background, and then we're gonna dive in and we're gonna take a look at the game as it is in development. You can tell this is obviously not a finished build, so everything that you see today is not in its final form. It is still a beta, so it still has, it's still very much subject to modification, to changes, but we're pretty confident in the direction that we're headed, and we're excited to see what the Lord is going to do with this. You know, our discipleship program is something that is being used in well over 100 countries all over the world. Our discipleship program, as you saw last night, is based on those two books, the Greatest Journey books, which I did not bring with me. But those two kind of basic curriculum books that you see, there's a student booklet and there's a teacher guide, and they're very similar in content, but they are not similar in how they are used. And so one of the things I want to do this morning is I want to establish a few basic things about the Greatest Journey itself. Then we're going to look at how we translated some of those important things into the app. Then we're going to play the app, and then we're going to have a little bit of question answer time, as well as I'll ask you guys just some feedback questions. And then throughout the rest of this week at the booth, there will be a few iPads, and if you've got kids that you'd like to bring up and have them play, they can go and they can play a few lessons in iPad on the iPads that we have there. So, and then give us feedback. So, so first off, starting with the Greatest Journey itself. The Greatest Journey is a discipleship program, and I think one of the very first important things for you guys to know as you think about the Greatest Journey is that it is not a curriculum. A lot of people say, oh, that's that discipleship program, and that's accurate. Or they'll say, oh, isn't there like some sort of a curriculum that goes after the shoebox? And that makes me cringe just a little bit, because there's a really big difference between something that is a curriculum and something that is a discipleship program. And the difference is very simple, but the difference is very profound. And this is something that applies to the Greatest Journey as well as in any other sphere in which you're working with people. The purpose of a curriculum is used by a teacher to transfer knowledge. So if I'm a math teacher, my role is to transfer my knowledge, my mental ability of math, to transfer that into the heart or into the mind of a child. But if I am a discipleship leader, if I am working on discipleship, I'm starting from a different place. I don't want to transfer knowledge into the mind of a child. I want to transfer heart, from my heart and my love for the Lord. I want that to be duplicated, to be replicated in the heart and in the mind of that child. So that sounds great in theory, but how do you do that? Because we are all handed the same Word of God, and some people use the Word of God as a tool to transfer knowledge into the minds of other people. We read it, here's what the story is about, here's what the story is about. And with that mindset of knowledge, we sometimes take a knowledge-based application to that as well. So we say, okay, so David had courage to kill Goliath, therefore you can have courage too. That is great. That's basic, solid teaching. We looked at the story of David, and we've decided that out of this story, we can have courage because David had courage. But unfortunately, that leaves out a really, really, really key part. How? How did David have courage? There were thousands of other Israelite men that were older, that were bigger, that had more practice at warfare than David did. What was it that David saw that they didn't see? How did David have courage that they did not have? That's pivotal, and that's the why. That is a disciple maker. A disciple maker doesn't say what, a disciple maker says how. And the answer to that question, so I don't leave you hanging, is because David looked at Goliath and did not compare Goliath to himself. David looked at Goliath and compared Goliath to his God. And so when we look, the application then for a disciple maker is when you are facing a hard thing in your life, if you are comparing this hard thing to you, it might be bigger than you, and it might be scarier than you, and you can't handle it. But when you compare Goliath to God, Goliath has no chance. That is how David had courage. So as we are working through the Greatest Journey Discipleship Program, really there was a pivotal moment when we were developing some of the training. And it was a point in conversation where we really crystallized the idea that the question is not, after the end of these 12 lessons, what do we want these children to know? The point of it, rather, the question that needed to be answered is, after these 12 lessons, who do we want these children to be? It's a very, very small change in a question, but it takes you in a totally different direction. So as we developed the actual Greatest Journey curriculum, that was one of our main focus points. And so as then within a few years after TGJ, kind of 2.0, the newer version with the teacher training that I got to work on after it was developed, not long after that, we were approached by Franklin Graham, obviously our president at Samaritan's Purse, who said, we are sending this discipleship program out across the world, but I've got grandkids here in the United States, and man, it's hard to get them to listen, right? It's hard, like they're in church, but what are they getting? How do we reach them? And so he said, it's hard to get the kids off the iPads. What if we put Jesus on the iPads for them? What if we gave them discipleship in a way that they can handle it? And that resonates with the emerging culture that is our children. So that started us on a journey to develop the Greatest Journey app. And there are some significant challenges to that. So first off, we wanted it to be a game so that kids stay engaged with it. It wasn't just going to be a video series, but our target age is kids 5 to 9. And if you look at how children's brains work between the ages of 5 to 9, they cannot do and listen simultaneously. If you have children, you know this. So they can't be playing with Legos and really listening to you. They need to stop the Legos, look at you, make eye contact, accept what you're saying to them, and then go back to their work. Right? Because, right, amen, right, you've got boys. Because they can't actually cognitively do those two things at once. So as we're building a game, how can we have them be playing and stay engaged, but not miss the storyline and not miss the background? So that's one challenge. Another challenge is the fact that we are building one game that needs to have some sort of a linear plot arc, storyline, something. But we're taking these 12 lessons that were never laid out to be a game. They were laid out to be 12 isolated points of discipleship. So first one is creation, fall, that works well. Then you jump straight to Jesus' birth. Interesting jump. Then you've got some of Jesus doing miracles. Then you've got Jesus welcoming the children. Then you've got his death and resurrection. And then the very, very next after that is the paralytic being lowered down. Like, well, we just killed him off and now he's healing a paralytic. How do you do that in a linear storyline? And then after that, we're jumping to the Old Testament, and we're looking at David and Goliath, and then we're back to the New Testament for Mary and Martha. Then chapter 9 is where actually it's a parable. It's the Good Samaritan, which didn't even actually happen. Then you have chapter 10, which is heaven. Okay, how do you gameplay through heaven, right? Then 11 is... I'm blanking on 11. We'll come back to that. And 11 is the Good Samaritan. So what was 9? 9 was David and Goliath. So then at the very end, then you have the lesson that Gina shared a little bit last night, which is the disciples going out. So all that to say, it doesn't flow together really well. So that was another challenge. Also, we were asked to have this game and be from the perspective of a modern day children. So we had to put modern day children into this biblical framework. But because of the whole like butterfly effect kind of idea, they couldn't interact with the biblical characters, and they couldn't mess up the story. So you're going to have a game, but David has to kill Goliath, right? Because if he doesn't, then probably David dies, and then like he's in the lineage of Jesus, and now we've just completely messed up the entire Bible. So, we were also instructed to not add words into the mouths of key biblical characters. So we can't have Jesus saying something that he didn't actually say. So these were kind of our set of challenges as we were beginning to develop the app, and so the Lord began to just open up our eyes and work with us as we worked with our development company out in California, which was another whole long story of struggle and blessing because they were not a Christian development company. The Lord led us to work with a secular development company, and so therefore we're working with a bunch of developers and we're having to explain terms like faith and grace and the gospel. So all that to say, we have come a long way. And so what you're about to see is the game as it has currently been developed and kind of in its beta form. We're looking for a release sometime later this fall. Once we kind of get it polished and approved and ready to go and ready to launch. It will be a free app, 100% free, no in-app purchases, no watch the ads, nothing. We just want it to be a tool that can be used to reach children here. And so how we overcame that. So what you're going to see today is you're going to see this broad meta-narrative, this overarching story that we put around these 12 lessons that really helped us to navigate some of these challenges. We ended up making the setting instead of current day, future day. So the gameplay will work out like this. A child will basically get to go into the app first, and they will begin to build their own avatar. So first thing here is going to be, and this is all still, like I said, in beta, but they can decide whether they would like to play as a boy character or a girl character. And then from then, they'll have lots of different hairstyle options, hair color options, all kinds of things. So let's go back to a boy. Let's give him dark skin. How about that? All right, so this is going to be our character. Now, of course, there's different voiceovers for the boys and the girls. You can't have them all looking and sounding the same. But let's say that this is going to be our character moving forward. I would name this and give my character a name. And there will be multiple users. So if you've got 3 or 4 children in your family, they can each develop their own character and have their own spot along the gameplay journey. So then to the actual gameplay themselves. So you're playing as the captain of the USS Emmanuel. It is a starship that is able to travel through time and space. Our cute little flying shoebox, Sam, it's on the front of a lot of our materials. Sam is the admiral who basically sends the kids off on their missions. The whole captain and crew of the USS Emmanuel is an entirely kid-run starship. So Sam sends the kids off on their missions. They beam down through time and space into biblical times, where their mission is to observe and record the events of the Bible firsthand without being seen. Now that provides some challenges too, so how do we do that? Well, we give them some really cool space gear. In the first lesson that we'll play today, you will get to see them flying star pods, which are smaller little pods that they can fly from their ship kind of down to the earth. They also will be using scanners, surface scanners, and what they're called, they're basically glorified iPads, that they can use to scan things and take biometric readings of things and all kinds of fun stuff. And then also, not in the first lesson, but in some of the subsequent lessons that we kind of will look through a little bit today, there's actually a little drone. His name is Elon. He's a Android drone. He lives in their backpack. He has invisibility mode, so they can send him into places. He can go invisible, and that's how we get inside the tent when King Saul is talking to David, for example. Can't really stick three future space-age children inside the king's tent. I doubt that his guards would have been cool with that. So therefore, we can send our little invisible droid in. That also allows us to do some other kind of creative things to get around some of those other challenges I mentioned earlier. So for example, how do we get kids into a parable or into heaven? Well, we put a holodeck on the ship. For those of you that grew up watching Star Trek like I did, you know that a holodeck is a holographic, space inside the ship that the computer can basically generate anything and anywhere. So we input passages from the Bible, and here's the computer's rendering of what perhaps heaven might be like, and we can send the kids in there to kind of learn a little bit. So those are some of kind of the fun things that having it be future allowed us to do, allowed us to kind of, if we couldn't go back and break the walls, so to speak, biblically, we could go forward and break them in technology. So today we're going to start with chapter 1. And let's make sure that this is working. Oops. My audio's up. Go out, main menu. There we go. All right. When you're working with something in development, if in doubt, start it over. All right, let's try that again. Here we go.
License plate flash. Keep your eyes open for these objects and tap them when you see them. You can see the items you were looking for by touching the communication badge on the lower right screen.
Throughout the game, kids will be earning what we call star pips. Those are those little points kind of headed up to the corner. And
Captain and crew of the Interstellar
they can go in and they can buy things later.
This is your Admiral speaking. We have arrived at our first destination.
Wonderful! Helmsman, activate the scanner by dragging the icon across the screen.
Ah! Oh no! Not doing well with my Earth lives here.
Dean, stop playing video games.
Captain, the scanners aren't finding anything. Not even a speck of dust.
Admiral, what's the meaning of this?
We've arrived at a moment in time before time has been created. Nothing has been created yet, actually. This is your first mission, to observe and record the beginning of everything. These will be your tools for collecting data. It'll be safest to observe and scan from the ISS Emmanuel in the beginning. But once the planet has breathable air, you'll move into your star pods to get a closer look. The last part of your mission is to gather information once you land on the planet. You will be using your stargazers for quick and mobile data scans. You'll need to stay alert. Some of these things are going to happen quickly, and if you don't scan them, there are no redos. Record as many details as you can during the mission. We're counting on you, Captain.
Thank you, Admiral Sam. Everyone, prepare your stations.
So again, our target audience is 5 to 9. So you're going to see some stuff like this. If you find the seek and find along the way.
Whoa! What's happening?
sometimes funny stuff will happen. So there's a donkey wearing a hat. There's just a variety of things along the way. So again, we're observing and recording, so there's a lot of scanning going on here. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit into the next scene. So they've just watched the first couple days of creation. They've just observed, scanned from the ship, and watched God kind of create out of nothing. So they're getting ready to go into their star pods, and now they're going to actually go down to the surface of the earth. Now that land has been created, there's somewhere for them to go. And again, you can go and play all of this for yourself at the booth.
Captain, there's something happening on the planet.
And again, you'll notice that we've separated activity from especially biblical text. So if it's something important happening, there's nothing happening on the screen. So that way it allows kids to listen and then participate.
Let dry ground appear.
My sensors indicate that this is happening all over the planet.
God is creating land. The land will divide the waters, creating seas, oceans, and lakes.
This dry ground will be called land. These waters that are gathered together will be called seas. Good. Let the land produce plants. Let them produce their own seeds. And let there be trees on the land that grow fruit with seeds in it. Let each kind of plant or tree have its own
Okay, again, I'm
kindness.
going to jump scenes just so we can get through a little bit more.
Day 3. Complete. Saving scans to ship database.
Captain, above us! Quick, the scanner!
Day 4.
Let there be lights in the huge space of the sky. Let them separate day from night.
Whoa!
Okay, we
That
just did
was a lot.
Earth, Moon, and Stars, and I
Computer,
skipped again.
Can you please summarize what just happened?
God has just created the sun, moon, and stars. Both the sun and the moon are light sources for Earth, because the moon reflects light from the sun.
Okay, I'm going to jump ahead again. So here they are landing their star pods in a now stable environment. So again, throughout each lesson, there's a little, there's the small kind of flying cross-shaped emblem in the corner. Whenever you click on that, you get this seek and find page. So in every one of the lessons, in every chapter, there are a bunch of seek and find things. Some of them are really obvious and flashing green. Some of them, especially as we go in, we've made them a little bit harder to find. So that way it's a little bit more of a challenge. That way kids will go back, and if they didn't find one, they'll go back and try to find it. And then when you find a lot of them, they'll do something kind of fun, like you find the keys,
Does everyone
he
have
locks the
their
spaceship.
stargazers?
Guys, look!
Captain, do you know how to use a camera? Aim the
So
device
this is, you guys probably can't totally tell here, but I'm gonna scan the sky until I get my target in view. So we have several different things that are almost VR style, where you're gonna be looking around and looking for something in the sky. All right, I'm gonna jump ahead. There's a lot of animal scenes, that some of our kids' feedback was more animals, more animals, more animals. Not surprising from this age group and demographic.
Have little ones so that there will be many of you. Fill the water in the seas. Let there be more and more birds on the earth.
God has just created marine and avian life. Ocean-dwelling creatures such as starfish, sea turtles, and dolphins now inhabit the seas. Winged creatures such as doves, eagles, and sparrows now fly in the sky.
And love is in the air.
Day 5. Complete. Saving scans to ship database.
Captain, the sun! The day is beginning!
Crew, activate your stargazers.
Day 6.
Gonna scan all of the animals.
Let the land produce every kind of living creature. It is good.
All right, I'm gonna jump ahead,
I will create humanity in my own likeness.
and we're just gonna get a glimpse of Adam from a distance. They're gonna scan him, and then we'll be back to the Garden of Eden in chapter 2, which we're not gonna look at today.
They will rule over the fish in the seas and the birds in the sky. They will rule over every living creature that moves along the ground.
So there's Adam.
It is very good.
Captain, my sensors are picking up human life in there.
I'm gonna
We're not alone.
skip ahead to the next scene. Actually, one more. So at the end of every mission that the kids, this is actually, lesson 1 is pretty long because it has got so many different elements that you have to kind of capture. The kids go back up to the ship, then they're gonna have a
Great
debrief
work, crew.
time
Let's debrief and review the data you
with
recorded during the mission.
Admiral Sam.
What did you learn about God on this mission?
He made everything good.
Oh, I just missed a scan of the, the elephant was in that corner.
He is creative.
Missed
He
it.
made all the animals. All true. And all very good observations. Captain, what did you learn about God?
I learned that people are unique.
Got him that time.
We are the only ones made in his image.
Exactly. Out of all the creatures God made, humans are the only ones made like him. In his image. God loves you and made you like him so that he can have a special relationship with you forever. Your part of that relationship is to honor and love God. As you saw today, God is creative and made everything with a purpose. He breathed life into us. Everything belongs to him, and he made everything good. He created this amazing world and these amazing people that you now find yourself seated with. He made you to be his child. He loves you and cares about you. It appears we're ready for our next mission, Captain. Get your crew to their stations and prepare the ship for warp. Dismissed!
You guys heard the Admiral. To your stations, everyone. Prepare the ship for warp. This is a short jump. You already saw where we're going. Next stop, the Garden of Eden.
So, if you heard there a little bit in the in that wrap up, basically what we're trying to do is really establish that foundation, and then we're going to keep coming back to it. And so every lesson really does build upon the previous lessons. There's other lessons where he's going to hearken back to say, do you remember in lesson 1 how we talked about how God made everyone unique and different? We're actually going to talk about that. We're talking about the story of the Good Samaritan. We're going to we constantly are circling back to the things that we've already studied and the things that we've already learned to continue to build upon them. So, and again, we're not doing gameplay where it is put the days of creation in order, because, you know, personally, I have a couple Bible degrees, but I'm not sure that I've ever been transformed by knowing what happened on day 3 or day 4 of creation. But we really want to focus on the main thing, and that is that God made us for good. That God made us in his image, and that God made us to be in relationship with him. And those 3 things, knowing and understanding those things change the course and direction of my life every single day. So we want to focus as we go through this. There's no way to take discipleship, which is heart to heart, person to person, and put it in an app. It's just not possible. But what we can do is we can create an app that is a really, really good jumping off point for personal conversation. So our hope and prayer is that this app will get used independently by kids that don't have access to regular access to church or to God's word, but that also it will be used by families, and it will be used as a way for parents and church leaders to have conversations with kids in a language that they're already speaking, which is technology. So we'll go in and we'll play one more lesson together. We'll take a look at it. And then I just want to kind of hear from a couple of you, answer any questions that you might have, and then just get a little bit of feedback from all of you. So we're going to go now all the way. We're going to jump to chapter 9 and take a look at David and Goliath. It's a very different kind of chapter than some of the other ones maybe that we watch. And again, I'm sure you noticed in the first one, there's like some lip syncing mouth movements that weren't on quite par. A few little things missing here and there. There was a mountain that was hovering about 3 inches off of the ground in the background. Stuff like that we'll obviously address as we go through.
Admiral, please proceed with mission overview.
Your mission is to observe and record the historic fight between David and Goliath. These are the Israelites, God's special people. They have been at war with the Philistines for many years. A long time before this battle, God promised this land to the Israelites, but the Philistines are living there anyway. Now the Philistines and the Israelites are sworn enemies. These are the Philistines. Their conflict with the Israelites comes from more than a land dispute. The Philistines did not worship God. Instead, they had 3 gods, Ashtoreth, Dagon, and Baalzebub. They were a warlike people, and they had the advantage in weapons and armor. Record as many details as you can during the mission. We're counting on you, Captain.
Thank you, Admiral Sam. Crew, gather round. Naomi, Lee, you're with me on the away team. Let's prepare to beam down. Activate teleportation beam.
I'm tracing the shapes with my finger. Every time the kids teleport, there's a new sequence of shapes. There's Elon, our little drone. And here's everybody's favorite sheep.
Up the road is David. He's the youngest son of Jesse.
That's our guy. Get your stargazer ready. When he's in range, we'll get a scan for the ship.
Whenever you meet a new character, you'll get that kind of...
Up the road.
Pause this for a second. Whenever you meet a new character, you'll scan them and you'll get that kind of that splash screen with who they are and their name. Those actually become stickers that go in a sticker book that once you're finished with The Greatest Journey, you unlock your digital Bible. And then those are stickers that you can go in and put kind of in your Bible at different places, like along the edges or on the covers. So obviously in lesson 1, the only person that we saw was Adam from a distance, and he'll get his full intro in the Garden of Eden. So that's why there was none of that in the first lesson. And obviously the seek and find, though it is here, this page is not built out yet. We're not actually looking for 5 elephants in David and Goliath.
Then that's where we're going too. Stay alert and keep your stargazers out.
That's why he's called the sheep of hiding.
Why are you all preparing for battle? This doesn't need to be so complicated. I'm a Philistine, and you are servants of Saul. I'll make you a deal, if you're brave enough to take it. Choose one of your men, your best fighter, and have him come down here and face me. If he can kill me, we'll become your slaves. But if I kill him, you will become our slaves. On this day, I dare the armies of Israel to send a man down to fight against me.
Goliath is bringing shame on Israel. He dares the armies of the living God to fight him. Who does he think he is? Is he just going to get away with that? Well, are you just going to stand there?
You there, boy! King Saul wants a word with you.
Great idea, Elon. Everyone, sync your stargazers up with Elon so we can see David's meeting.
To match the frequency, tilt your device left and right until the line is perfectly straight.
Maybe. Do it lower.
Whoa! David doesn't mess around.
He's so brave. Just thinking about Goliath gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Shh! Elon followed them into a different tent.
King Saul has instructed us to dress you
I
in
skipped
his
over the
armor.
part where David and Saul talk. So because again our target audience being 5 to 9, we again, you can't not succeed. You can time out, you can not get points for it, but the story will continue to move forward.
Goliath wearing all that. I'm not used to it.
Do you think David is scared?
How could he not be? Goliath looks more like a monster than a man.
David is heading out. Let's go. Well, it's now or never, old friend. Be good until I get back, okay?
This is the best that Saul has to offer? A scrawny little boy? Why are you coming at me with sticks, child? Do you think I'm a dog? I'll break your bones. I'll smash your skull. I curse you and your kin. Come over here, boy. I'll feed your body to the birds and wild animals.
You're here to fight me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin. But I'm here to fight you in the name of the Lord who rules over all. He is the God of the armies of Israel. He's the one you dare to fight against. On this day, the Lord will bring me victory. In his name, I will strike you down and kill you. I'll send the Philistine army running, scared out of their minds. Then the whole world will know there is a God in Israel, and that he is the one true God. The Lord doesn't rescue people by using a sword or a spear, and everyone here will know it. He will hand all of you over to us.
It's just a basic dodge and roll. Woo! Yeah. You think? Think it's gonna happen? All right, so the kids are gonna beam back up to the main ship.
Mission complete. Captain and crew ready to teleport.
So I skipped the that kind of the wrap up for that particular lesson. Again, if you want to see it, you can go to the app or to the booth and play it. But as you can see, the goal is to go through all of these different lessons and allow the children to experience it firsthand, observe and record, and then they go back and beam back up to the ship. One more thing I did want to show you is the Pip Exchange. Oh wow, that loaded really weird, but we're going to go with it. Okay, so we're going to try that again. I'm not sure why he's tiny, but it is a work day, so the developers could actually be developing. I just did an update this morning. So, so for example, all of those little points that you've seen the kids earning, you know, throughout the gameplay, you can take, those are called star pips. You take them into the Pip Exchange, and you're going to exchange those for other things. So this is Elon, and for 100 or however many it is, pips, I could exchange. We're going to take out the word buy. We don't want parents to freak out and think that they're actually buying anything. You can exchange star pips for what we call skins for Elon. So you can make him look like a panda or like a flower. There'll be a ton of different options. You can put racing stripes on him. You can do a whole variety of different kinds of things. Yeah, from a distance you can see his backpack change there, which is a little hard to tell. He'll have different, oh, there he is, bigger. Different hairstyles, so a green tipped mohawk, for example, does not come standard. You know, that's something that you have to use some of your star pips if you really want a green tipped mohawk. So caps, you can't see the front of that, but those are some really cool like steampunk style aviator goggles, headphones, whatever. So a lot of character customization, just kind of like fun things that you can add. You can change your outfit, all that kind of stuff at the Pip Exchange, which kids these days, there you go. So there he is with his different backpack, different outfit, and headphones and different haircut. But kids, some of our testing and research has shown that kids love customization. Being able to go through and change your character and get them different things is really a motivating factor. So those are just 2 lessons along in the middle of a much larger app, a much larger project. But any questions that you guys have here at this point? I don't know if there's people that are watching in live streaming, but if there's anybody who is watching live that has a question as well, I'm happy to answer that if the sound guys are willing to play telephone. So, but any questions about the app in the room? If not, I'll ask you guys some questions. Yeah. Not currently, but that's actually something that we've talked with our developers. Once the app gets launched down the road, could we, maybe not a full uniform, because we really need to stay within the visual form factor of what the uniform looks like right now. And for example, our captain, his pants are, like more like space pants that are fairly skinny with kind of like the knee pads on them. So we couldn't make it, and like Trail Life pants are wider legged. To go through and change something that's visual like that requires us to completely reanimate because it takes a different amount of visual space, and that's really a lot. But we could potentially, down the road, if we wanted to go in and add like maybe a badge or something to Elon, to his skins, or give it a Trail Life hat or a backpack or something like that. We need to get the app working and launched and into the world first, but there are options that we could go back in down the road and potentially just work with Wade's team and kind of figure out what they would want to do, if anything, with partners. But that's, it is a potential. It is something we've actually even talked to our developers about. What would this look like if we wanted to come in and, do other things even across the SP kind of family of ministries? Could we give them an Operation Heal Our Patriots hat? Well, sure we could. So it's a great question. Yeah. Yeah. So these are actually conversations that I've had with our developer also, because I was thinking along those same lines. What could we do to really use this for a specific audience? So could there be a Trail Life version? There could, but there would be a significant cost added to that. You'd have to have a separate, download on the App Store. It would take a whole new resubmission and this will be on Apple, Android, and Amazon stores. So. And we're releasing primarily in the United States to the English-speaking audience, but we do have within our contract with our developer secondary languages and potential releases primarily to some of our other sending countries. So we'd open up Canada, the UK, Australia, Germany, Finland, some of those kind of countries probably first. But we're looking to say, what is the long-term reach of an app like this? What would ultimately be what we would like to see it do? I think we're limited. My recent iPhone that I just got has a couple hundred gigs, I think, on it of space. It's got quite a bit of capacity. I think that the smallest you can currently buy is 64 gigs. So to have a larger app like this is going to be a couple gigs once the whole thing is downloaded. For an American, depending on how many photos mom has on her phone, that may or may not be, an issue. But as we are kind of at the cutting edge of the line of technology, in fact, WayForward developed some things that have never previously been done on an app before for this game. So because of that, the size of the game is larger, but as technology is screaming ahead at 1,000,000 miles an hour, in a year or two, it's just not even going to be kind of an issue or a question. So, but in the developing world, that is a very different question. In the developing world, we're still kind of trying to figure out how that would work going forward. But yes, those kind of how do we tailor this to partners? How do we kind of add maybe even some little Easter eggs along the way that could be kind of more partner focused? That would be kind of fun to explore some of that. Yeah. Great question. So for children that have hearing challenges, to whatever degree that is, that's another thing that we've explored down the road, is doing, again, we just need to get this thing out into the wild first in its original form. But we have talked about doing a fully subtitled version for kids. Honestly, that is probably a really good kind of not super duper hard thing to do that could make a really significant impact very quickly. So that's definitely on the short list, for sure. Correct. So, and the other thing is you guys might not have realized it, but still over 75% in an average lesson the text that is happening, of the conversation, or of what you're hearing in the lesson. So obviously not on the starship, but in the lesson is straight biblical text. So in creation, you were hearing the lesson of creation. That was like, I think that lesson is, like 78%. Once the kids beam down to the planet, it is 78% straight scripture, with just a few like, oh, wow, look at what's happening on the planet, Captain. That kind of stuff kind of thrown in. But other than that, it is biblical text. And the same thing with David and Goliath. You know, we really didn't, David's speech, Goliath's speech, all of that is verbatim, word for word, straight out of the Bible. So a lot of that stuff it's there. It's in the star log when you click on there's like a star log, you'll actually see the biblical stories. Like as you go through each lesson, you'll unlock more and more of the biblical text. And then to the end, you'll unlock the full kind of downloadable children's Bible. So, great question.
Is there an option to potentially in the future add languages such as Spanish?
Yeah, so again, in our contract with Way Forward, we've currently got it spec'd out, I think, with an additional 5 languages. The challenge with that is the quality. We want to make sure that it maintains a high level of quality, and so redubbing everything, that is a challenge and expense, but going back in and redoing all of the facial animations, and the biggest thing is the timings. You've got to have really, really good voiceover people, because they've got to hit their timing spot on. Because if it takes me, a sentence to say, oh, look over there, but then somebody else is saying that and it takes a lot longer, I'm going like this before they say there, and so then your whole animation stream is thrown off as well. So we're talking about, okay, Spanish is pretty doable with the current set of animation. We'd have to redo all of the facial features and facial expressions, and so it is going to be part of that process to say if we release it in other languages, we just don't want it to look super dubbed. We're going to do it. We want to do it well. So great question. Any other questions? Anybody from the back? Nope. Good. Okay. Well, we are running close on our time, but I just wanted to invite you guys, if you would, stop by the booth. There are some actual feedback forms that they're going to have at the booth. Feel free to play some of the other lessons. They're not all here. We have several that they've taken off because they're actively working on them and uploading them to the server and stuff like that. Some of them are more rough than others, and so just, excuse any of the weirdness, like, the angel is giving Joseph his dream in the Jesus birth lesson, and Joseph is laying there with his eyes open. It's super creepy, stuff like that. Just, assume we're going to handle it. If it's like, wow, that was really weird. But let us know. There's lots of questions on those feedback forms. We'd love to hear from you. Just let us know what you think. Let us know from anything that you've seen, if there's any theological questions that you have or concerns that you have. Any great ideas that you're like, hey, for future iterations, what if? Those are things that are always welcome. So love for you to fill those out at the booth. Love for you guys to stop by and play more. If you came with children in tow, please bring them, because really having kids play it, I'm actually leaving here to go and do more focus group testing with kids. That's kind of where we're at, to really make sure that our jokes are hitting their target audience, which they are. The little fluffy sheep with the stuff hidden inside of them. Like, I've got video on my phone of a little girl laughing so hard she fell out of her chair, that kind of stuff. And the soda can that makes, then the boy burps, like, again, that like 3rd grade boy is just like, I can't believe this is an app about Jesus and he burped, So that kind of stuff is hitting, it's hitting its target audience, which is kind of fun. So thank you so much for your time today, and thank you to everyone who's watching along at home. And like I said, the app will be 100% free. It'll be available in all the app stores, and it will be available, Lord willing, later this year, once we kind of get all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed within the game. So thank you so much. Have a great day.